good afternoon, evening, morning, whatever it be when you are finding this episode of something to talk about. Um, if just in case the camera falls or you hear a crash, it's because my cat, I won't say our cat, my cat is trying to rub against the legs of the tripod, so there's that. Makes Grant very happy. So, anywho, hope you are having a good day or evening, whatever it may be. So, we have a little bit different episode today. So, it's a little heavier and maybe a little bit longer than normal. So, we're just putting that disclaimer out there. So, today we are going to talk about church hurt. Yes, you heard me correctly. We're going to talk about church hurt and the healing process and not moving on, but moving forward. And so, I also want to make another disclaimer. I wore this sweatshirt on purpose. And if you're just listening online and you're not watching the video, my sweatshirt says half holy, half hood. That means pray with me, don't play with me. Wore it on purpose because my disclaimer is Grant is the nice and kind one, and I am the one who will remind you of 1990s Tina and throat punch you if necessary. I'm kind of kidding, kind of not. But walking through this process we're about to talk about, I definitely wanted to put out a few throat punches. You can judge me if you must. It doesn't matter. That's on you, not me. So, anywho, what do you want to say before we get into all this?
I'm ready to get into it.
Ready to get into it?
I don't want to give a pep talk like I'm a coach and a football player
Okay.
game or something. Just time to play.
All
time
right.
to go.
So, first and foremost, let's just talk about the fact. Now, when we're speaking about church hurt, we're not talking about, well, Sally gets to serve more often than I do in the nursery, and I keep asking, and they keep using Sally instead of me. That's not what we're talking about. Now, if Sally's getting to serve more than you because she's a bigger giver than you, yeah, that's a whole nother conversation of the toxicity of the system you're in. But we're not talking about they don't have the right kind of creamer at the coffee bar, or the music's too loud, or the lights are too flashy, or any of that kind of stuff. But we are talking about people that are supposed to be representing Jesus doing hurtful things, being manipulative, and mistreating people. Those are the things we're talking about. A big issue with church hurt is churches don't want to talk about it. A lot of pastors don't want to talk about it. In fact, I can remember not too long ago, we were sent a video clip of a pastor that was basically diminishing church hurt and basically saying everybody needed to get over it. Well, I would challenge you that pastors probably don't want people talking about church hurt, because the more people talk about it, the more a light gets shined on it, and hopefully some accountability will be put in place and it will stop. Once people start calling things out, and as a new podcast we've started listening to, calling fouls on people and holding them accountable, real accountability, hopefully it will stop. Now, unfortunately, y'all, I'm just going to be real on this episode, and I apologize if I say something that is offensive to you. In my personal opinion, I don't think a lot of pastors want to talk about church hurt because it would require them to reflect on themselves. And also, if there's true accountability, there might be some pastors that are no longer in leadership, and so that's going to affect their pocketbook. So, we can't talk about the crappy things we do. Anyway, just putting that out there. Now, Grant and I are not immune from being the cause of hurt. So, before we get very much further, if while we were in a leadership role and we caused hurt to someone that is listening, we sincerely apologize. And if you would like to contact us and tell us, hey, when you were in leadership you said X, Y, and Z, and that really hurt my feelings. If we ever said things that try to guilt you into serving, if we said things to try to guilt you into giving to either just the regular offerings or guilt you into giving to some cause or whatnot, we sincerely apologize, because that is wrong on every level. You shouldn't have to guilt people into doing anything. If we used things out of context, whatever it be, I would just say from us, we sincerely apologize, and we never want to cause hurt to someone.
Yeah, I don't. Only thing I can say is, I know, speaking for me, and I told her this before we started this podcast, I said, I know that I've probably hurt people and I've manipulated through feelings people to do things that they're uncomfortable doing, probably. And I don't mean, understand what I mean, as far as giving and serving and, things in church. I've done it myself. Okay? I know for a fact. And, of course, saying I'm sorry through a screen is not really, but all I can say is to the screen, I'm sorry. But like she said, if you have us on any social media platform, reach out to me privately or her privately, and I promise you I would love to sit down and do a real apology, because I don't want anybody to think that we're those kind of people that fall in that category of what we're about to talk about today, because I don't want to be a part of that team. Sorry, I don't. It's hard for me to say it growing up like I was raised, but I'm telling you, I want to be different. I want to be like we're supposed to be, like Jesus. I want to, when you look at me and my wife, I want you to look and say, wow, that is actually a reflection of how Jesus would act or how he would not act. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't want to be that, you to get a bad taste of what Jesus is actually like. Okay? And through all this church hurt, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to get back into the church hurt thing. This is where it gets scary to me. People come to church, and the person standing on the platform, what part of leadership role it is, I don't care if it's an associate pastor, if it's a youth pastor, if it's the main pastor, if it's the worship pastor, whoever that person is standing in front of people telling them about Jesus, and they're the ones hurting, people get a bad taste in their mouth, mm-hmm. and that's what Jesus is like. Mm-hmm. Jesus is none of those things. He doesn't hurt us. He does not hurt us. We are his sheep. He is our shepherd. A shepherd protects his sheep at all cost.
It's true.
Right? A shepherd has a staff not to beat the sheep. Hold on, let me say that again. A shepherd has a staff not to beat the sheep, but to keep the sheep in line. If you get off track, he pulls you back in line. That's what Jesus would do. Okay? Not beat you. He keeps you in line. Understand me. We want to be a reflection of Jesus. What the Bible actually says to who Jesus is and who he is, who he was, and who he's going to continue to be. Right?
Rather than manipulated scriptures
right.
to fit an agenda.
Right.
Because in our opinion, this is opinions of Tina and Grant, the American church has lost its way quite a bit, and it's very sad. It's become more a competition, and we're less worried about actually helping our community. Now, Grant and I could never touch on everything about church hurt. We couldn't give you all the information, and so I would encourage you, if you either have walked through church hurt and you're looking for a way to help you heal, or if you truly have a desire to know more about church hurt. And I mean truly a desire to understand it, not dismiss it, not sweep it under the rug, not act like it's not happening, not immediately saying, well, that doesn't happen in my church. Well, how about you make sure it's not happening in your church? But anyway, Grant and I found a really good podcast. Now, before I give you the name of the podcast, we don't know these people and they don't know us. And so I'm not telling you we agree with everything they say, and they don't even know us, so they definitely don't agree with anything we say. So I'm not endorsing either way.
We're not partners at all.
Them or us. But we know for us, the podcast has been extremely helpful. And so it's called Church Disrupted. And it is literally an entire podcast devoted to church hurt and exposing some of the manipulative things that are done, unfortunately, in the name of Jesus and church growth, or whatever you want to call it. So, but to start with, there's a lot of times whenever you're experiencing church hurt that the perpetrator will make you think that it's you. You're the problem, it's you, we're all a team, we're all doing this, but then there's you. Okay, that's a very unhealthy place for you to be. And it's not necessarily always you. So they're going to make you think it's only you, and you're the problem. There's something wrong with you. So if you keep getting sick feelings in your stomach when you're dealing with these people, it's probably less likely that it's you. So first off, I need you to kind of take inventory of where you are. If you're walking through this right now, is this causing you more stress than joy and filling your cup? I can tell you, for me, the situation I was in was draining me to the point that I had nothing left to give, because it was always turmoil, chaos, pushing, pulling. It was just too much, and it was constant. But a couple other things I just want you to understand is you're going to have triggers. And here's the crazy thing. So before Grant and I walked through all of this, I never understood how, we'll say women in general, because it's usually women that you hear about, would stay in a bad relationship. I've always been the one that's like, pack your stuff and leave. What is wrong with you? And before this, Grant always kind of made fun of people that had not, I'm sorry, I'm exposing him. He didn't understand people that said they had anxiety, or people that said they had trauma, or people that said they had like PTSD. He was like, whatever, just get over it. Okay, well, fun fact, sometimes God will use really crazy ways to grow you so that you can relate to more people. Because, y'all, I was staying in an unhealthy relationship with the people I was around. I was not being treated right. I was being mistreated constantly, but on the other hand, being used for all my talents, but then, get back in the box when we don't want to deal with you. And so, yet I kept staying. About, 6 months before we made an exit, we should have exited, but we knew that we were called there. And so we stayed, and that was a huge mistake, because it was, I'm just going to say it like it is, it was hell on earth for the next 6 months, because it was made very obvious that we were not wanted. Painfully obvious that we were not wanted. And so I'm not going to tell you that it's easy to walk away from a hurtful relationship, but it's necessary. Sorry, go ahead.
And let me make something real clear here. This was 5 years of our lives that we can never get back. Never in our life will we ever get that time back with our family or each other. So pretty much going through this mess was 5 years we lost as a couple, and 5 years I lost being a father and a grandfather. And I'm not saying that for you to cry and say, I feel sorry for you. I'm not saying. I'm just saying, when people that are discount this already and listening and saying, whatever, they're just making this up, or it's not really what it seems to be. To be honest with you, and I'm not being ugly, I don't care what you think. Mm-hmm. Just quite honest, it happened, and it really hurt, and it still hurts. Okay? And so I just want you to just be aware that the time that and if you know me, if you know me at all.
Okay, hold on, time out. I don't want you, if you're listening to this and you know us personally, I don't want you to misunderstand what he just said. It was not 5 years of wasted time. We did what we were supposed to be doing. We were reaching people. We were ministering to people. We were doing what God called us to do. That's not what he's talking about. We know that that's where we were supposed to be. What he is meaning is 5 years of, why are you needing to be gone to go to Oklahoma? What do you mean you have to miss a day during the week when you're already working 6 days a week for something, whatever, and just the constant
tug of
war. The best way I can describe it, it's like a roller coaster, but not a fun one. So let's say you're terrified of roller coasters and somebody talks you into it, and it's like you would go up and it's fine, and then you plateau and you go plummeting and you feel like you're plummeting to your death, and you're like, oh crap, here we go, a valley again, and then okay, it's fine. So 5 years of just angst, back and forth, but you overlook and you go forward and you do, because you know that God called you to do this, so you do it. But there comes a time when, like Grant was saying, with your family, because that kind of thing starts to take a toll on your family, and there comes a time when you draw a line in the sand and you say enough is enough.
Yes, what she said, I said that way wrong. I apologize. The 5 years I was there, I built relationships that I would never imagine. They were great, and still have today. So when I was trying to make a not correlation. I was trying to make you understand 5 years of my life, and if you know me at all, I'm not. It's not a brag moment. I'm a worker. I know how to work. Okay, and I don't care my position. It doesn't matter to me. You work no matter what position you have. You're a worker. I don't care what I got to do. To putting water in a baptistry, that sounds like a pastor's job. Guess what? It was my job. I did it. I loved it. Right? I did those things. If anything needed to be done, changing AC filters, guess what? I did those things. I'm just saying, I was a worker. I did all the things that needed to be done 5 years. And I worked hard, okay? And I built a lot of relationships. And when you, how to say this right, when you are pretty much pushed out, because there's no other way I can do. There's no other way I can.
No.
Okay, I take it back. I could stay and get abused more, or I could get out where God allowed me a place to be able to get out and leave. There's only two options I had, and my family had already. I feel like that Tina had been put through enough cause of me staying and doing what God had called me to do, because that was my excuse. God's called me to be here. He did. But he did call me to be there. But I don't really think that God wants somebody to be abused. No, he doesn't want you to stay there and keep getting abused. He didn't call me to be abused.
No.
Right?
And here's the whole thing. There's a pattern of behavior. And the funny thing is we saw this pattern happen to other people, but we believed the lies we were told about those people, and we were like, oh, well, that will never happen to us because we know our heart, we know our work ethic, so that won't be us. Well, fun fact, then it is you. So there's a pattern of behavior, and this is where we talk about the accountability portion. Because when you see behavior that's wrong, and this is the issue in the church world, because they will tell you we have all these checks and balances in place, when in all actuality it's smoke and mirrors, checks and balances. I don't know any other way to say this. Somebody's going to get offended, but in like the real world or the corporate world, there's human resources, there's other departments that you can go to that there are checks and balances. Y'all, in churches that doesn't exist. In fact, when I spoke to someone about things that were happening, I was told, oh, well, I mean, all the churches are sovereign, so they're on their own. Okay, so we don't want to talk about any of this. That makes sense. But here's the thing. Make sure that you're not being manipulated. You're not being manipulated to serve. You're not being manipulated to give. Make sure you're not being guilted if you're not there every time the doors are open. Make sure that you're being taken care of. It kind of goes back to the same thing I used to tell my kids about their friends. when my kids would have trouble deciding, I don't know if this is a good friend or not, I don't know if I should continue this friendship, I would tell them, when you leave this person's company, you've spent an afternoon with them, y'all went and hung out, did whatever y'all do you feel better when you step away from that time? Or are you drained when you step away from that time? So are you getting filled? Are you truly getting fed? So, I feel like we're like rambling a whole lot. Where do we want to go from here? So we did what you're supposed to do according to that lovely scripture that I literally can't stand because this was our, I don't even know how many times to do the whole biblical way of sorting things out. I guess the Bible assumed everybody was mature when they gave that verse. But you go to the person, hey, we got this issue. If it doesn't get resolved, you go bring in somebody else. And when none of that works, y'all, that's a real good sign that it's time to peace out.
What I guess the bad thing or the hard thing is that you think, I'm using that word loosely, that you think that when you go do what she said, when you go get witnesses and you bring other people in, you talked about the issues that are happening with the person you're accusing and yourself, get in a room and you talk together, you think, man, we can move forward and get some things accomplished. We're adults. We want the kingdom. We're all about kingdom-minded. You assume you're all kingdom-minded and you're for whatever organization you're in, church-wise, you want to push that forward. And with this meeting, we're gonna fight through and get it done because this is what God's all called us to do. Sad thing, when this happens and both parties are not mutually mature, you're left broken. Mm-hmm. You're left alone. Mm-hmm. You're left not cared for. Yep. I'm just being honest here, okay? Sure. You are isolated to an island on your mm-hmm. own with no support. Mm-hmm. Just what you have at home. Yeah. And I'm just being honest. I'm being where we were at. Mm-hmm. We even had, I know she had talked to someone in high leadership. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't avail. And after that meeting, I got a message from another high leadership, and it was just a pitiful way to say I'm sorry. Very pitiful way. And anyway.
And it's funny because as we walk through this, we're basically sharing our story because we want you to know that you're not alone in this. The biggest thing we have found out from walking through this is we're not the first. We hate to think we're not the last. But the whole thing about this is it's kept so hush-hush. But we're finding out that there's more people out there like us. And let me tell you something else. Those of you that are friends with me personally know that I shared a little bit about this last week. So here's the deal. There was some yucky stuff that happened to me when I was a very young child. I did not talk about it for years. In fact, there were times I had convinced myself it didn't even happen. I honestly did not discuss it regularly until we got married. Now, I will tell you what happened when we started having conversations about it. Guess what? When I think about it now, I don't get angry. When I think about it now, I don't get all upset and think, oh my Lord, what did I do to cause that? I didn't do anything to cause it. It was a person that had other issues, had nothing to do with me. But in talking about it, it brings healing. One of the things the guy in the podcast that we talked about earlier says, you can't heal from things you're not willing to talk about. You have to talk about things so they lose their power over you. Now, am I saying that you're supposed to go to the coffee shop and give everybody the whole story? No. But fun fact, as soon as I had to go and tell people, hey, we stepped away from leadership at XYZ, y'all, I had people coming out of the woodwork telling me their stories. And so I think the biggest thing I want to get across, you're not crazy. You're not the problem. Now, some of y'all is crazy, and some of y'all are the problem. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there. So I'm not totally taking responsibility away from everybody. If you're the crazy Karen at your church, then yeah, you're a problem, and like, get your life together. However, for the most part, I'm talking to the people who have literally been abused, mistreated, gaslighted, all the things. You're not alone. You need to find your people. And let me tell you, when Grant and I quit being silent, we found people to walk through this with us.
For sure.
We found people, guess what? What does the Bible say? You're supposed to use your testimony, right? You're supposed to use, by the word of your testimony, what are you going to do? Okay, so you're going to overcome those things.
For sure.
I hate to tell you, but you don't have a testimony without going through something. But if you remain silent, you're not going to help anybody else. Because everybody goes in the corner and it's like, oh my God, we can't talk about church hurt because that'll give Jesus a bad name. Guess what? Jesus doesn't have anything to do with the church hurt.
No, he does not.
Because the people who were supposed to be representing Jesus to you that mistreated you, there's nothing Jesus about that. Now, they may use scripture. They may use any kind of Christian garbage verbiage to manipulate you and make you feel guilty, but it's all trash. It is complete trash. None of that comes from Jesus. And I would say, here's the deal. If you've walked through this, I want to give you some permissions. Give yourself some grace. But I also want to give you permission to be pissed off. It is okay to be angry. And fun fact, it's okay to be angry with God and question Him and ask Him, what are you doing? But don't equate Jesus and the jackwagons. They're not the same people. They're not. Now, I get it. It's hard. It's so hard. Because I will tell you, I made this guy, I said, we ain't darkening the door of a church for at least 2 weeks. Y'all, next month we will be married 25 years. That is the first time in 25 years that we were not in church and we weren't sick and weren't out of town on vacation. This guy about come unhinged sitting at the house. And fun fact, the first Sunday we chilled out here at the house, we're chilling out at the house, and then we decided to go to town and eat. And lo and behold, we go eat at one place where one of the people walks in and tries to smile at us like that. Okay. That's a whole nother thing.
She said something real good, and I'm going to move on here, but she said, what you don't talk about doesn't heal. Make a correlation. That's the word I want to use.
I don't know.
Yeah,
what
correlation to you, kind of like this. If you have an injury and you don't get help with your injury, let's say you tear your ACL, you tear it, it's ripped. Okay. If you don't go to the doctor and get that mended back, what's going to happen to your ACL? It's never going to heal. So you're probably going to walk with the limp forever or pain forever. But if you go get it fixed, and you take time for that to heal, like the doctor says, in months, you can get back on and walk and be fine again.
But if you try to walk around with that torn, you're causing more damage. If you walk past people, no, I didn't tear my ACL. I'm good. You're causing more damage to yourself. same as this. You're causing more damage to yourself. So it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset. And it's okay to take a break. You will hear people say, oh, well, when you get a bad review at a restaurant, but you still go out to eat, but yet we don't do the same with church. Okay, our whole church culture in America, y'all, is trying to discount what's happening. Y'all, just turn on your streaming service and you can find numerous documentaries about toxic pastors and toxic leaders in churches. They're literally a dime a dozen. Okay, so don't tell me this isn't an issue in the American church.
Definitely.
So, and also, if you're trying to make your well-being, the well-being of your family a priority, and you have someone in your church not abiding by that, there might be an issue. I will tell you, for me, I did everything I was asked. I was asked to get a mentor. The mentor was in ministry, another female in ministry. I was asked if I would like to get a counselor. I did both of those things. The funniest part about all of it is both the mentor and the counselor said, Tina, you are doing entirely too much and you need to put some boundaries in place. From the time that I and we together put some boundaries in place, almost directly mirrors the time that we can put our finger on when things started going downhill at a frightening pace. And are you dying to say something, or is your child bladder getting in the way?
Yeah, it's getting in the way a little bad. Oh.
Pardon him. Y'all, this is a true story. One time we were in a church service that he was in charge of.
That's true.
And he was in the middle of saying something. Now, you got to know Grant. When he gets what he's supposed to share with whoever, when he gets a word from God, he, I guess a good word is, chews on it for a long time. And so we talk about it back and forth, back and forth. So by the time Grant does his sermon, let's say it's at a church on a Sunday, him and I have already talked about it for the entire week. Well, thank the Lord that we're like that. We're in church one time, and Grant, again, has the bladder of a small child. And so he's in the middle of his sermon and literally looks at me and said, Tina, come and take the microphone. And I'm like, what? Homeboy had to go to the bathroom because he had drank a Celsius and like 2 bottles of water. So luckily, because he had been discussing his sermon with me the whole week, I was able to pick right up where he was. And
she did an amazing job. What can I say?
So
it was awesome.
Anyway, so that was a nice little random.
It's not funny. That's true. That's a true story.
Anywho, put boundaries in place, and that's where things went haywire. Another podcast that is crazy and will frighten you, but unfortunately you might see some similarities if you're exposed to narcissistic leaders, is The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill.
Man.
Y'all, I want to vomit anytime somebody shares a TikTok or something of Mark Driscoll. Y'all, that guy is the epitome of toxic, narcissistic, abusive leader. And he literally just packed up the state he was in and found another.
And he's still a pastor.
It's frightening, y'all. It's frightening. That tells you we have an epidemic in the American church. It's a problem. So anyway, back to taking a break. We took a break for 2 weeks. It was hard for Grant. It was not hard for me because I didn't want nothing to do with anything that even remotely looked like what we had just left. And so we took a break. And then we ventured out and started trying to find a church. Let me tell you, that is a challenge, y'all. That's a challenge. I remember one Sunday we tried a church and Lord help us. I thought I was going to vomit. The guy was crazy. And at one point, so we had just left somewhere where there was zero accountability. Like, let's make excuses for lies and let's pretend you're the problem and these people do nothing wrong. Okay, perfect, great. So that we left a place where there was zero accountability, and we visited a place where in this man's sermon he was talking about giving, and he literally said, well, if you're not giving because you're afraid of what we're doing with the money, that's none of your business anyway. He literally said, it's your job to be obedient, and it's between me and God what happens with the money. I'm the one accountable for that, not you, so you don't even need to worry about it. It's not even biblical for you to worry about what I'm doing with the money. Holy Moses. Y'all, the arrogance, I can't. Needless to say, we didn't go back there. So, yes?
In everything you do in life, whether it's, what do you call what I do, a labor, just someone that does a normal job like me, works at where I work, whether you're a profession like my wife, whether you're a student like my daughter, accountability is in everything we do. Mm-hmm. My everyday job, there is accountability, right? If I'm a minute, 2 minutes late, I get held accountable for that.
Yep.
If I drop a pallet, I get held accountable for that. Mm-hmm. You know why? It was my fault. So I think the biggest issue, and she's already said it, but I just want to hit this. I don't think we actually get it. When it's your fault, when you are when you're the common denominator for all the issues, it's time you step up and say, I am the issue. I am a problem. What can I do to fix it? Because empties, I'm sorry's, that doesn't work anymore.
Oh, and let's just clarify, there's some toxic, people will say that, oh, I learned this in a book, right? No, this is toxic. When someone has done something to you and they're trying to shut you up and they say, I'm sorry you feel that way. Y'all, there's no accountability on them at that point.
Back on you.
It's you. I'm sorry you felt that way. Again, you're the problem. Y'all, you can do all kind of research on gaslighting and manipulation. It's a real thing. Anyway, let's get back to some things that you might experience. Yes, PTSD is a real thing. I know boomers and Gen Xers sometimes get offended with this word, but there's going to be triggers. I'll just go ahead and tell you. There was a big trigger for me. We were in testing mode at school, and one of the leaders at my school, he did not intend it the way that I took it, but we were in a stressful moment, and he barked at me the same way that a previous narcissistic, arrogant leader barked at me on a regular basis, and I snapped back at him with a vengeance that was meant for the other person, but because what he said reminded me and triggered me of that other person, I just okay. So I was processing it later, and I was like, that had nothing to do with him. That was all directed at so-and-so. And so I went to him later and I said, hey, bud, I said, I'm really sorry. I said, but when you spoke to me that way, I said, I just saw somebody else's face, and it reminded me of the way that he used to speak to me. So my reaction was less about you and more about me and some baggage that I have, and I'm so sorry. Oh, wait, what?
You apologized.
I apologized. Yeah. I was accountable for my actions towards him. But you're going to experience things like that.
You're going to also experience, I know this sounds real kiddish, but it's really a real thing. For people that aren't mature, they use these things a lot. Like side jokes and side comments, okay, that adults shouldn't do because we're not 8th graders, but we do them. And I'm not going to give examples because I could really get detailed with the examples. If I said this, it would be too much. But you shouldn't have to make jokes about people to make yourself feel better. And that's bad that a leader in a church would do that, but it's happened. It happened to me before. It's really sad. It really hurts. It hurts.
It's really bad when you try to bring accountability to that with the supposed leaders and they make excuses for that person and say, "Oh, that's just
He's
how
just
they are."
sarcastic. He just what? Wow, you get fired at my job for doing that. Anyway, that's the truth. You would get fired at my job for doing that.
Again, in the regular world, there's accountability, and people have to. They have to conduct themselves in a professional manner, but for some reason, in the church world, all bets are off, and these people can do whatever they want. Again, there's this very strange culture in the church world that person that's behind the pulpit is somehow closer to God than all the rest of us.
It's not even biblical.
Here's the deal. No, it's not. And so we're taught in this toxic culture that we've got going on, you're not supposed to question the pastor. You're being disrespectful if you question. That's not true, y'all. Now, again, the shirt. So in the last meeting that Grant was talking about, when there was leaders and board members, whatever you want to call them. What?
A lot of gaslighting that night.
Oh, yeah, it was awful. But I was told that I was being very combative. I'm really sorry that this person does not have any strong females in their life that are willing to stand up and say, this is total BS and you shouldn't behave this way. However, yes, I was very vocal that night, because if any of you know me, you know, if I'm for you, I am for you to the death.
It's a true story.
If you have me in your corner, I will come out swinging for you. Okay, here's the deal. I chose this guy 25 years ago. And I sat on the sidelines and watched him get used and abused for 5 years. So you can bet your dadgum bottom dollar I was combative that night, because I'm sick of you mistreating my favorite guy that is the nicest guy on the planet. That was a total sidebar. Don't know where it came from. But anywho. Oh yeah, questioning. You can question. You can ask why people do things. You can ask what they meant by that comment. It doesn't matter who they are. In the podcast we referred to at the beginning, it talks about that there's an honor culture within the church. But when it comes to the point that you can't question, you have to take everything they say and just be like, oh, yes, sir, you're the pastor, I'll do everything you say. That borders on being a toxic honoring culture. It's not healthy. So, let's see. We've talked about you may have PTSD. You may need to take a break. Here's a fun fact. We have since found a healthy church. We have found a healthy place for us to go and be fed. There are still times when there are triggers that just remind you too much of what happened.
Nothing. It wasn't even on there. It wasn't bad what they were doing.
No, there was nothing bad.
No, it wasn't.
It just brings back memories that you're like, ooh, last Sunday, I purposely stepped out of the service and went and got a cup of coffee and stayed in the hallway till that part of the service was over.
It's okay.
Here's the deal. That goes back to giving yourself grace. Don't stress yourself out. Take the break you need. Take the time you need. But again, I need you to find your people. And when I say your people, I'm not saying go to the coffee shop with 10 people that everybody's like, well, this pastor did this to me and this pastor did this to me and oh yeah, let's get them. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Find your people that are like, I see you, I hear you, I've experienced some of this, and let me walk through this with you. Because here's the deal. You have a call on your life. I don't care what any jackwagon says. Sometimes your call is more obvious than other people's, and they don't like that. Let's just be real. You have a call on your life. And just because some jackwagon mistreated you because they're insecure does not change the call on your life. So what you have to do is you have to talk about it. You have to find safe people to talk about it with. You have to give yourself grace to start healing from it. But you have to remember, and I'm telling you, we have learned so much over the last, in a day, will be 6 months.
Wow.
One day from the recording of this podcast will be 6 months. We have learned so much. And God has revealed things in us. And it's almost, thankfully, I feel like a new fire is being churned inside of us. And God is like, this is what I have for you.
Yeah, He doesn't waste. I don't believe God wastes things that we go through. He don't waste those in our life.
No.
He doesn't put them in there to say, "Ha, watch this, see what they're going to do." No, what He does is, it's like when you're making diamonds. I think it's what they call making diamonds. They put you through pretty much hell, pretty much heat. It's how much pressure you can take. Because at the end of all that pressure and all that hurt and all that comes out something real nice and beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. So God doesn't waste things you go through in your life. He sees what's going to happen at the end. He just don't share it with you. Mm-hmm. Which, newsflash, God, it would be nice. But He's never going to. He's never going to. But I'm telling you what you're going to hear, and I'm just going to share what you're going to hear. You're going to hear a lot of, are you sure this is what happened? Are you sure it was that bad? How's your heart? Is your heart in the right place? I'm being honest. What you'll hear. I'm not kidding. Is your heart in the right place? Are you bitter? Are you bitter?
Are you burnt out?
Are you just burnt out? And I'm like, and here's what I'm saying.
Y'all, these are supposed educated, smart people.
This is real things that happen. But what it does is it puts focus on you. Not on the person that the problem is, on you. And you know why that is. And the podcaster said it. So if you listen to the podcast, you'll hear it. You're more easily replaceable.
Yep, you're dispensable.
You're dispensable. And that's fine. That's fine.
But here's the deal, and that's what leads to the narcissistic. And in the podcast, it talks about that there's a lot of pastors that are already prone to narcissistic tendencies, but sometimes with the way that churches are ran, it just intensifies it. But hold on, I had something I wanted to say when you were talking. Oh, go ahead.
Pastors, leaders of churches, whatever it may be, if you're listening to our podcast, the reason church hurt happens in churches, I'm going to tell you, and it came to me right here. I'm just telling you, listen up. We took the main thing away from being the main thing. We've made church something that Jesus never wanted church to become. You know what we made it be? A country club. We invite all of our buddies to come and have donuts and coffee, chill out in groups and just talk with our buddies. Yeah, in a nice building with nice lights. Yeah. Right. Just be honest. Except finding a hurting mother, a hurting father, a hurting person that doesn't know where their next step is, and saying, you know what? I want to link arms with you because I love you, and that's what I'm called to do. God didn't come for the people that are saved. The Bible says that. He come for the people that are hurt, that are dying. And we left that out. Yeah. This is what we're called to do. Yeah. And you know where ministry happens? Not inside those four walls you call church. No. I do more ministry outside in Walmart. I do more ministry outside in the restaurants. I do more ministry at work where my job is than I ever had in the church. Ministry, hold on, I'll tell you this, and I know where it's coming from. I just fired up all of a sudden, sorry. Ministry is not standing behind a pulpit and preaching. You know how much, that's about that much ministry. About that much right there. That's it.
We're not saying it's not necessary.
No. Hold on. I don't have to tell people this. We're adults. You know what I'm saying. We are adults here. You know what I mean. You do more ministry at the restaurant with that waiter or waitress that's having a rough day and you give them some encouragement. That means more to them than the 5-point sermon you preach on Sunday. I'm being honest. This is what God called us to do. Yep. Right? We should be full of people that are hurting. Yep. Your church should be full of people that are broken.
That you're willing to do life with.
Dirty.
Not that you're trying to get a check from.
No.
Not that you're trying to convince, your life isn't going well. Well, how's your giving? How's your church attendance? Y'all, that's some freaking toxic mess right there. Somebody is coming to you broken and you're going to preach at them about they haven't been in church enough or they're not giving enough. Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
How about you ask how you can serve them?
Yeah, for real.
I'm sorry, I could get way.
No, you're right. Here's the thing, and what I really don't want to hear anybody tell me, which no one's told me yet to our face yet, that church hurt's not real. It's a made up thing that people make up that are burned out in church, that don't want to be in church, that aren't really saved to begin with.
Or wait, whoa. I just got this one.
Go ahead.
Well, they just didn't want to submit to the authority of this house.
Hey, those are all gaslighting comments. And look the word up, gaslighting. It'll show you all what this means. But things actually happen, guys. Here's the thing. Can I tell you something? I think God's got something big for the church.
Yes.
I think He's got something huge, revolutionary. I'm not just saying this.
And I think that these shifts are happening for a reason, because God wants His church to look like the church of Acts. He wants the church to be going out. You hear me? Going out. Because how much would the world step back and look if every church person was going out and helping their community, helping their neighbor? Like truly taking the love of God to all of the people that they encounter. Y'all, I promise you that's going to impact people way more than just sitting in a pew on Sunday morning. And y'all, hear us. We just told you we found a healthy church. It wasn't easy.
I go to church. Yeah.
We go to church. Our whole family goes to church together. Thank you, Jesus. Because our situation could have gone so differently. And that's another thing that angers me, is I know that people different than us have walked through our season and they didn't come out on the other side with their faith intact. They didn't come out on the other side with their family intact. They didn't come out on the other side with their marriage intact. And that's wrong on so many levels. So many levels. Because we're not talking about a bad boss at a regular job that you can just be like, whatever, I get my paycheck. You don't expect them to be people, of great moral character. We're talking about people that are supposedly being spiritual leaders that are dealing with your eternal soul. So what about the people that aren't as stubborn and strong as Grant and Tina? What about those people? Here's the deal. We're still standing. We're still together. We still act like each other.
Your story.
Going on a boat. We going on a boat.
Not
I'm
yet,
sorry.
though.
Sorry.
Not
sorry.
yet, though.
We've been married 25 years. Next year we taking a trip.
18 days now. Pretty sure. Is it already midnight?
So anyway.
Yeah, 18 days.
But we got off track with my boat.
Well, I think, and she'll figure I think in a minute she'll figure out, but I think the whole point of this podcast is we want people to know church real. Mm-hmm. It really happens to people. It actually happens in our churches.
Yep.
There's actually leaders that are not good or healthy for you to be involved with.
True
Now
story.
look. On another note, she was saying, here she was going with this. If it had not been for the local church, I wouldn't be the same people.
No.
I wouldn't be the same person I'm today. So I'm not saying every church should close down. We should never have church again. If you take it that, you're not listening to what I'm saying. I'm saying in every work environment, there's someone toxic you work with. I promise you, there are. Okay. The deal is we have to figure out who that person is, and if you have to work with them, limit the time you have to be with them. Right. And if you're a leader in the church,
do better.
Maybe step back and get some help.
Flip and do
That's
better.
what we're saying. Step back and look what you're doing to people.
So,
you're hurting people.
Yeah.
Stop and get help. There's nothing wrong with that. But guess what?
Again,
the evangelicals have said it's wrong to get help. It's wrong to get counseling. It's wrong to go to a therapist and talk about your problems.
Just pray about it.
Just pray about it, huh? Okay. Well, then next time you're sick, don't go to the doctor. Don't get medicine. Mm-hmm. How foolish does that sound? God give us people. Yeah. He give us a brain. Get people more educated than me that know things about the human brain that I don't know about. It's okay
Yep.
to sit down and talk to somebody about what's going on with your life. I promise you one thing. If more people stood up and said, hey, you're right. It's not okay for so-and-so to do this to me. That would stop.
Yeah.
And we would see healthy churches.
I fully believe with everything in me that there's a shift in the American church coming, and that God wants to, and here's the deal. Like Grant just said, we're not against church. We go to church.
Yes.
We know the value of church, and we know there's amazing churches. There's churches, I have so many friends that are pastors. I mean, obviously Grant and I have been serving in a church. Okay, time out.
Yeah,
Last 6 months taken out.
Yeah.
That is the only time in our married life of 25 years that we haven't served in some capacity in our local church. Okay? So obviously we believe in church. Our kids were raised in church. It's important. But y'all know I'm in education. I believe in public education. Don't come at me if you don't. I mean, we can have a conversation about it, but
off this podcast, obviously.
Yeah. But I'm smart enough to know there are teachers in education that don't need to be there. Yes, education right now across the country is hard. It's rough. We are attacked at all sides. But if all of us that have a true heart for educating the youth of America leave, there's nobody left inside to turn the ship back on its right course. The church is no different. If Grant and I, after what we went through, which we never dreamed we would walk through.
It's not the path I wanted to take.
We never in a bazillion years.
No.
We've been through church mess. We went through a church split way back in the day.
Wow, when we first kind of got married, it's early in our marriage. It was pretty
I don't
early.
remember when it was, but anyway.
It was early.
It was in the first...
Under 10 years.
Oh, yeah. It was in the first 10 years. We went through a split. But that was people. That wasn't leadership.
No.
That's a whole different ball
man.
game.
We ain't got time for that one.
When it comes from leadership, y'all, that's rough.
But I think where we're going out here, we need the church as a whole needs to start representing and reflecting Jesus.
100%.
Okay, and if you know anything about Jesus, if you ever read the Bible, and if you hadn't read the Bible, you know the stories about how Jesus was, how he acted, how he didn't act, the people he hung around with, people he didn't like to hang around with. I could go on and on. People he loved no matter what. He didn't matter your economic status. He didn't care about your sexual preference. Yes, I'm saying it. He didn't care about your sexual preference. He didn't care about if you were married or not married. He didn't care about if you were a single mom or a single dad. I could go on. You know what he did? He loved you.
He hung around with all of the people that church people
Don't like
would be
hanging
pointing
around.
fingers at. Okay,
That's right.
Let's just be real.
That's right.
Okay, let's honestly. But anyway, all that to say, if all of us, like people like me and Grant, and everybody that has been hurt in a church, left, who's left within the church to steer the ship back to where it needs to be? It's not about flashy lights. It's not about making a list of your top 10 givers so you can take them out to dinner. That ain't right. Funny, somebody showed me a verse in... anyway, what? Never mind. We'll go on.
Next podcast.
That's another podcast for another day. It's about walking through life with people, showing them the love of Jesus, linking arms with them, being like, yeah, you know what? This season of life sucks, but I'm going to walk through it with you. And you know what? I have a friend over here that's walked through this. I don't really understand, but they do. So let's see if maybe they can go to lunch with you. Let me connect y'all. You know what I'm saying? I mean, hello. And go ahead. You're like...
You know what the church should look like? I'm going to tell you. And if my friends are listening, I'm going to call your names when I remember your names, okay? I promise I'm going to call. I remember back a long time ago in the 90s when I was in high school, we had a youth group at church. If the church looked like my youth group, it would be so flourishing. It would be so wonderful. We had a group of people, I can name them all by name, not going to, okay? But probably a group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'd say 10 or 12 of us, well, 12 disciples, go figure. 12 of us that every week we hung out together. On Sundays, where you find us? At Pizza Hut and at the basketball courts. Where would you find us on Wednesday nights? At church and in the parking lot and maybe somewhere in Brahms or something after church is over. We hung out. We had a community. We loved each other. We didn't judge each other.
And wasn't none of them the same?
No, we were all different. Our economic
Rich
status,
kids,
are you kidding
poor
me?
kids.
Single mothered kids. We were all different colored. We had Caucasians, Native Americans, African Americans, you name it, we had it in the group. But we had one common denominator. We loved each other. And we loved the community. If one of us hurt, we all hurt. Wow, go figure. That's what Jesus wants the church to be to begin with. If my brother hurts, I want to hurt with you, brother.
Yeah.
Tell me, if my sister hurts, girlfriend, how you hurting? I want to help you. But what do we have? It's not that.
No.
You're not really hurting.
Yeah.
It's okay. You need to go pray about it.
And I don't understand. I literally just had this conversation with someone this morning. I don't understand why the church is so afraid of hard conversations.
I don't either.
I don't understand it. I've always been of the people, y'all, especially males. I'm just going to go ahead and call you out, and y'all can be like, oh, God, here goes Tina again with her male chauvinist stuff. Yes, you're dang Skippy. Yes, it's still an issue. It's 2023, and it's still an issue. Just because you have outdoor plumbing and light-colored skin doesn't make you better than the rest of us, homie. Anyway, but for some reason, white men really have trouble if there's ever this little ladies trying to question you. Here's the deal. I've always been of the persuasion, if it is solid enough that it's a good plan and we should do it, well, then it's solid enough to withstand questions. Like, I don't understand.
Jesus
and if what you're
every
doing...
time he did something. Every time he did something, he was questioned.
But if what you're doing can't withstand questions, maybe there's a problem.
It's not worth doing.
So, the church needs to get comfortable with hard conversations. Leaders need to get comfortable with people saying, well, explain to me your motives on that. Why are you wanting to do it this way? So, I don't want you to go to your churches and be a butthole. Obviously, that's not what God wants. And you will have people tell you, well, you're bringing disunity. No, I'm just trying to bring awareness. When he was talking earlier about the storm, or the fire, the trial, I forget what you used.
The diamond, it's fine.
That's what it is. So, when we lived in Oklahoma, I was at home burning trash. Yes, we lived in the country. And it got away from me, and a bunch of our grass caught on fire. I was freaking out. Finally got it under control because I was by myself. But here's the funny thing about that grass fire. So the fire's burning. Again, it was scary. It was hot.
Out of control.
It was out of control. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. Does any of this sound familiar? I finally got the fire put out. The crazy thing is, I remember this like it was yesterday, y'all, and this has been years ago. Because if you've ever fought a grass fire, you can take a rake, flip it on its other side, and do it like a broom, and it'll help put the fire out. So I have my rake, and after the fire's out, I'm raking, and I rake across a small dead snake. What in the Christian world do we always represent with a snake?
Of course.
Okay? That snake was dead. The fire had to come to burn out the junk. But then you fast forward a few weeks. Guess what about that grass?
Oh man, it's probably nice.
It was the greenest grass in our yard. So none of it was wasted. It was scary. It was hot. It was hurtful. But something fresh came out of it. So again, I know it's difficult when the hurt comes from a supposed spiritual leader. But there's got to be a way for you to separate. This was a man. This is Jesus. And Jesus loves you and cares for you. And if I'm being honest, he's grieving as much as you are that someone misrepresented him to you. If you're listening to this and you have completely walked away from your faith because of a person, I am so sorry that you were hurt that deeply. And I would just pray that you're somehow, one day, whether it be through a person, whether it be just through an encounter when you're by yourself, that you would allow your heart to be mended and just allow God to envelop you and say, I love you, and those people didn't represent me. Because I would hate to think that someone, and I know it's happened, y'all. We've watched documentaries, we've listened to podcasts, people have walked away entirely. And I know that is happening, and that is no one's fault except the church for allowing it to happen. And there's somebody going, well, it's those people. Yes, but there's no accountability within the churches. There's not real accountability. So, we warned y'all this would be much longer than normal. And hopefully we have helped you some to know that you're not alone. If you're walking through this, if you have walked through this, we see you and we know, sorry Mom, we know it sucks. It's awful to walk through. We've had to walk through it with our kids. Our kids have had to deal with some of this.
Let me tell you something. Tell you something real quick. You can come at me. I can take it. I promise. You can come at my wife, and I'll take it for a little bit, but then I'll have enough of that. I heard that podcast guy today say, and he's right. You come get my kids, it's on.
Yeah.
It's on.
Y'all, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I just, yeah. When they try to manipulate your child, when they try to cause division between you and your family, there ain't no Jesus about that.
You say manipulation too.
Yeah.
Use things. I'll take you here if you stay.
Oh, stop it!
Anyway, hey, we've said a lot of things that are really hurt, and it was kind of sometimes negative, but yet true. So let's bring this back when we leave. Let's say some things that we can bring back positive. Okay, I'll tell you something. Something she said that is like, I thank God every day. We go to church on Sundays.
Yep.
With my family, my whole family.
Yep.
Both of my kids.
Yep.
My daughter-in-law, my bonus son, my granddaughter.
Yep.
We all sat together in a church.
Yep.
Man, thank you, Jesus. It can be so much worse, but it's not.
Yeah.
We get to enjoy church together. Second, this last 6 months, I am healthier. I'm happier. My mind's a little more clear. I hear God easier than I ever did the 5 years serving. Guys, I'm being honest. Here's the thing. Had a pastor who says, you weren't there, so it doesn't matter.
Yep.
You don't know.
Yep.
You weren't there. I was.
Yep.
So all these things are true with me.
And
I get to enjoy my wife on the weekends.
I literally, probably about a month ago, got one of the best compliments. I had a friend that is with me every day. And she looked at me probably a month ago and she said, Tina, I just need to tell you, you look so much happier and healthier than you did this time last year. Holy cow, y'all. That's a huge compliment. Also an affirmation that Grant and I are on the right path.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. I know you're about to say something else.
Yeah, so on good notes, here's the thing. I love the church. I think I wouldn't be here without the church.
No.
Okay? And I know that God's got some amazing things. I know this sounds so cliche, but in my heart, I know God's got some great things for the church if we can see that we need to change. Okay? And remember Paul in the Bible, He said, you messed up because you forgot your first love. If you remember why you fell in love with what you did, why you love what you do so much, when you fall out of love with that, you're going to go off track.
Yep.
But when you figure out why you fell in love with this, because you saw people that are hurting, you saw people that are dying, you saw people's lives that you could help change,
Yeah.
and you wanted to do it. Let's get back to that.
Yep.
And once we do, oh man, it's going to be, as Kirk Franklin says, a revolution. It's going to be some revolutionary things.
There may be somebody out there. We don't know everybody's story. We don't know who listens to this. We don't know who doesn't listen to it. I mean, if nobody listens to it, that's fine. We have fun.
That's right.
It's all good.
That's good.
But you might be sitting there and you might be a young couple and your marriage is on the brink because of this. Hey, fun fact, we have an email.
Yeah, we do.
You can contact us on social media.
Sure can.
You can contact us through email, martinministrymoments@gmail.com. Reach out. Because and listen to these old people.
Wait, I was going to say it at the end. I'm ready for this.
We've been married. Again, next month will be 25 years.
Wait.
I'm happy to. You're such a weirdo. Happy to
Sorry.
give you our Cash App or Venmo if you need to
Yeah.
give us an anniversary present. That was a little bit of a
She's a
joke.
joke, kind of.
Kind of a joke.
Yeah.
But we've been through a lot in 25 years. And I know you don't want to hear this. Every time we have walked through some mess, it could be a month down the road, it could be 6 months down the road, it could be a year down the road. There's been times, there was stuff we walked through in Oklahoma that we were able to use when we got here, when we moved to Texas. And I know you don't want to hear it, but God always uses it.
Always.
And he always uses it to stretch the circle of people that you're able to witness to and connect with. Again, I never understood people staying in an abusive relationship. Grant never understood trauma or anxiety.
Oh, man.
Guess what? We have a whole new outlook of ways to help people. I promise you, God's not wasting it. But if you guys are sitting there and you're like, I don't think our marriage is going to survive this, don't give that freaking jackwagon that hurts you that much power over your marriage. And if you need somebody to talk to, reach out. We'll walk through it with you. If you're a young person and you're young in your faith and somebody mistreated you, I'm here to tell you that is not.
Representation
No.
of God.
No.
No. Because God is love. And love is God. And I know... It sounds so churchy what I'm about to say. But God, I can't describe how much he does love you. And so if someone doesn't represent that kind of love that's talking to you or at you or about you, that's not God's love.
No.
That's human love.
Yeah.
And we don't understand God's love. Because God's love is eternal.
Yeah.
God's love is unconditional. It has no strings attached. He just loves you because you're you.
Yep.
Okay? And the end of this, I think it'd be only appropriate to say.
I have something else to say.
Oh, say it then.
Don't lose that thought.
Oh, no, I got it.
I
Don't
just
worry.
also want to say you need no one's permission to walk in your calling.
Oh, no way.
Man does not call you. God calls you. The arrogance for someone to sit and say, don't let this be the end of you in ministry. Well, no, duh.
You didn't call me.
You didn't call me into ministry. You have nothing to do with my call. So you do not need anyone's permission to walk in your calling.
No.
I don't know where we get off in this, this mighty person of God told me I'm going to do. Yes, God can give people a word. But if it doesn't resonate with your spirit, maybe that word was for their cat, okay? Because we got a whole lot of people that run around giving words that are empty. God reveals to you what your calling is.
Mm-hmm.
And fun fact, your calling may be in education. It may be to be a Lyft driver at Walmart. It might be to be the most amazing host at the local restaurant.
Hey,
Because people look forward to seeing your
gotta have
smiling
'em.
face.
you gotta have them.
Guys, you have a call and you need no one's permission. And just because some jackwagon mistreated you has no bearing on your call. None. Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. And so to end this up, I want to wrap it up here. This is really good. I mean, God, we had the same thought, but yet God spoke to me. This is crazy again. Now, I know you're going to blow your mind. God spoke to me in a forklift at Walmart DC. Whoa, I'm sorry. He really did. On a forklift while I was getting product down from the top shelf. I promise he did, guys. No, he did. If you're out there and you're saying, man, I can't say anything. There's no way I can speak up. No, because people won't believe me. And I'll get something. I can't do it because it'll destroy me if I do anything. I'll tell you a little story. I heard. It's in Esther in the Bible. And I'm pretty sure her cousin Mordecai came to her when she said, I don't even want to be queen.
Yep.
I don't want to be queen, Mordecai. And he's telling her all the reasons why she doesn't want to do it. And he says, if you don't speak, if you don't talk, doesn't mean you're going to be saved. He's going to kill us all.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping silent is not going to save you.
Nope.
So you know what she did?
Yep.
She pulled her big girl panties up. I'm just being what happens. And she went to that king and said, hey, king, you little servant boy over here, he's trying to destroy my people.
Yep.
Your people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you know what happened? Her people were saved.
Yep.
You know why? Because she spoke up.
Yep.
And she was tired of her people being ridiculed, being hurt, being...
Yep.
All these things happened to her people. She was done with that day with it.
Yep.
You need to be done with it today.
Yep.
I'm a child of God.
Yep.
God has a call on my life. And if that person, whoever they may be, are in the way, God, deal with it.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking about it.
Yep.
I'm tired of it.
Yep.
This is what it's about, guys. Coming together as a community, lifting each other up and saying, you're not crazy.
Yep.
You're not. You're really hurting. You know what?
And then,
Let's
and,
go.
And fun
Let's go.
fact, if you go to someone and they're mature, just like me and my leader at school, I said, dude, I'm sorry. That was not about you. You just triggered me. So if you're experiencing some things, and let's say some leader at church or children's worker at church or whoever says something, and you go to them and are like, hey, that was a little much. A mature person is going to be like, man, I didn't even realize I said that.
It's true.
I did not mean to say it. And fun fact, I've had people, I know everybody's like, well, Tina's a lot. She's too much. You know, whatever. You can go kick rocks.
She's enough for me.
Anyway,
I like her.
he's my favorite.
So
No, but I have people that I am friends with now that we started off rocky because our personalities clashed, and I was like, who do they think they are talking to me like that?
Yeah.
But I went to them and I was like, hey, I have a friend right now that is a dear friend. And I remember when we first met, it was like this. And finally I was like, hey, I feel like we've gotten off on the wrong foot. And we both like made concessions and then moved forward, and now we're great friends. Right. So if both people have the common goal and are mature, mature, don't act like a 8th grader on a playground that got bullied and you're still trying to bully people to make up for it. If you're mature and you're adults, you can move past it.
it's true.
There's nothing wrong with having those conversations. And here's the deal. This guy doesn't like to speak up. He doesn't like confrontation.
Mm-mm.
Fun fact. He married a mouthy woman. That's not afraid of it. So if you are getting mistreated and abused, go find your Tina. And I promise you she'll speak up for you.
So guys, I know there's been a lot. I know we said a lot of things. And if you have been hurt, probably triggered some things.
And we apologize for that.
I do apologize for that. But in all this, walking through this, it's a new thing for me too. New thing for her too.
Not the new thing DC Talk sung about either.
No, not
That
a
was
good,
fun.
not a good new thing. This is a hurtful new thing, but it's the walking through the journey to get better and to move forward, not forget. Okay, I get that when Paul says forgetting things that are behind, but you need to get the context in this verse. That's not even good virtue for this. You're not forgetting what happened. I know what happened. I remember things happened when I was a kid. They were bad. I still do. Okay. But moving forward, don't let that stuff control me.
Yep.
Yes, it really happened. Yes, it really hurt. But I'll move forward to whatever new thing which DC Talk is talking about that God has for me in my life. Right? Yeah. And if you don't DC Talk,
what are you
really,
doing with your life?
really?
Come on now.
You listen, this podcast not DC Talk. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But we've talked a lot about things. And we just want to make people aware of that. It actually happens. I know it sucks to even think it happens in churches, but it does. And I think as people of God, if that's what we want to call ourselves, we should be people of God. That means we need to represent God how God needs to be represented. We got to do better.
Yep.
We got to do better. Because there are people, hate to tell you, in your own backyard that are dying and going to hell. And if you don't start representing Jesus better, they're never going to come to your church. They're never going to let you talk to them in a restaurant. They're not going to take anything you say for anything because why? We have to do better. We have to represent Jesus how Jesus wants to represent. That's what being a Christian is. Being a representation of Jesus. That's what our job should be. Are we doing that? I can't speak for you. I don't know. I hope so. But we always say we love you guys, and we do love you guys.
We do.
We don't know everybody, and we don't know if you listen. I hope you listen. Hope you get something out of it. Okay?
Basically, our whole goal is to bring awareness,
Definitely.
let you know you're seen and you're not alone, and encourage just people as a whole to speak up so that the church, not just in America, but this is where I live, so it's the only church I know. But I will say for the church in America to be more like what Jesus intended for it to be, rather than this manufactured thing that we've made it into that is not. Yeah.
And Vanilla Ice said it best. Stop, collaborate, and listen.
I can't with you.
Just saying.
You're fired.
That was the worst dad joke ever. I'm sorry. I'm a dad.
Y'all, he's
I'm an old
horrible
dad.
at dad
Okay?
jokes.
I'm sorry. Just want to make a little bit light at the end. That's all. Sorry about that.
So
Anyway.
yeah. So again, we're not tearing down the church.
No, we
church
love it.
is important.
Definitely.
My daughter knows all her verses in her books of the Bible because
Missionettes for
she was
Jesus.
missionettes
That's
for
right.
Jesus.
She loved missionettes.
Yeah.
She still remembers all that stuff.
Yep. I still have both of my kids' missionettes vests, and then Broderick
she
was a Royal
does.
Ranger. So that's where
She does.
that's what made
Hey,
them who they are.
That's the
the church is important.
foundation.
But it's
baby.
also important for the church to look right and act right. So, hey, he doesn't know this yet, but our next podcast is going to be about how you still like each other 25 years later.
I can talk about that for a long time.
So,
That'll be a long
next one will be a
podcast.
little bit lighter. But, y'all, we felt very convicted to do this and couldn't get away from it.
No.
And God spoke to us both the same night.
We weren't together.
Separately with the same verse.
Uh-huh.
And so here's the deal. We're not about running from what God tells us to do.
Not anymore.
And
For
nope.
sure.
Negative Ghost
Head on,
Rider.
baby. We're
That's
taking it.
right. That's right. This is how we do
That's right.
it. Anyway,
That's right.
I can't sing, but we do love you guys. But yeah, next time, probably in a couple weeks, we'll be talking about 25 years. How did we do it? So, anyway.
Secret. I'll let you know.
Wow, he's a dork, y'all. Anywho, but we love you. We see you. If you need us, holler at us. So, we'll have coffee with you. We'll email with you. Whatever you need us to do.
Sure will.
But you're not alone. You're not crazy.
Nope.
And yep, they a jagwagon. But we love you. We'll see you next time.
Bye.